Welcome to NIRSA Live and our conversation today. We are digging into the program and facility features area, and it is brought to you by the NIRSA Facilities Institute, presented by Mondo in partnership with Athletic Business. And today's episode is about building what students actually need. Lessons from two new Michigan recreation facilities. I have Mike and Marcus, M&M, on the line today. How are y'all doing, fellas?
Good.
We're doing great. We're at a Big Ten conference right now at Indiana, and love to be able to join you and share some information.
Big Ten conference. Now, is Indiana stunting on everybody right now? You know, they just won the national championship, so are they feeling themselves right now on campus?
Let's say there's a degree of that, certainly.
Yeah. They're not used to winning national championships in football, so they're pretty excited and well deserved.
Nice. Okay, so listen, everyone who's listening to this right now, by the end of this conversation, hopefully the campus rec professionals will walk away with real lessons on how to plan, advocate for, design, and operate facilities that reflects students' needs, campus priorities, as well as long-term flexibility. Now, the NIRSA Facilities Institute is a natural tie-in because it focuses on planning, construction, renovating, and operating recreation facilities, and it has an emphasis on the trends, pitfalls to avoid, peer connection, and practical solutions for facility professionals. So this is going to be a great conversation that's going to tie in with everything that the NIRSA Facilities Institute stands for, happening later on this year. Okay, now before we get into square footage and the pools and the new courts and all of that, let's talk about, was there a problem that y'all was trying to solve on campus that led to the new facilities?
Yes. So if you don't know much about Michigan State's history, a lot of our recreational centers were built in the early 1900s. And we were, I think severely behind the times in terms of amenities for students to exercise, recreate, and build connections. So that was the biggest thing that we wanted to address. The facilities that we did have were very small. The largest one was 190,000 square feet. That was IM West. But with a student population that is over 50,000 now, we certainly needed to address that pretty quickly.
Okay.
And I think same for Michigan. I think that's one thing we share between Michigan and Michigan State, where we were both behind the times. We had not been a part of the recreation boom in terms of the industry and new facilities coming online over the last 20 to 25 years. That just was not a priority for our campuses. And now it's pretty special to be able to deliver these spaces that we know move the needle for student experience, health and well-being, and building community that I think will benefit both our campuses.
When you're winning all those championships, sometimes they don't have to worry about those kind of things.
Now that's interesting because I was working on site at UAB, and we were coming up on 20 years. And I remember the vice president of student affairs came to us and he was like, hey, we are serving a completely different audience than what we served 20 years ago. And he asked, is this building still up to par to who the people for the people that's coming in the building now? And from that conversation, they decided we need to revamp the building at UAB Rec Center to just meet the new members where they were. So with that, we had to get some input from the students. And in the article written by NIRSA Communications, great article on NIRSA News if you have not read it, about these two facilities, student input was mentioned. So tell me, how did you gather the students' input, and how did you make sure that input was actually influenced the decisions that and not just checking the boxes? We talked to the students. Now we're going to design the building the way we want to design it. How did y'all make sure that student input got into the planning process?
Yeah, I think for us at Michigan, we involve students at every single aspect of the process. whether it's the start of the advocacy of why we should build these buildings. We stayed very connected with our student advisory boards and other student groups on campus, and really helped educate them on from our perspective, why these facilities are needed. And then they have their own perspectives as well. And I use the line a lot, the student experience is really defined by the students themselves, and involving them in every step of the process. So we had students on our design team. So when we were talking about what should we build and how many basketball courts versus pools and strength space and fitness space, the students were answering those questions. And I think we have to build student facilities around their input and around their experience. So that way, once we open them, they are designed in a way that really facilitates student use every day.
And I'd say very similar, using student surveys, focus groups, feedback sessions, benchmarking conversations with our colleagues, taking staff, and different groups around to different universities, and just showing them what features other universities or colleagues had. So the ongoing engagement with our student leaders and our recreation participants were very pivotal in the construction of our new facility.
So let's talk about planning, benchmarking, and your NIRSA network. Okay, both of y'all talked about leaning into your colleagues and benchmarking other facilities. So what were some of the most valuable questions that you asked those other campus rec professionals before making your decisions?
I think one of the things that continued to come up during the planning process for us, and a question that we ask our colleagues, is what are the lessons learned that you wish you had done differently? So that was very helpful, especially if there were colleagues such as University of Wisconsin and our friends downstate at U of M who had two other facilities that they had renovated. To say what lessons are learned, what are the things that you wish that you had done differently. Those sorts of things were, I think, pretty pivotal for us.
And I think we always would ask, like, what are students telling you? Students come in and they use a new facility or use an existing facility, and what are they telling you about what they need? And what are the things that you don't have that students are saying, we need to add this feature or this function or this type of equipment? Knowing those things before you're planning your project will help you make decisions when you're having to weigh different things against each other. And obviously getting students in the room to do that, but I think leaning on our colleagues to really help understand what's their experience on their campus is really critical. And I think that's the best thing about NIRSA is the way that we share information from different colleagues and across the country and across the world, really, to really understand what we can learn from successes and failures of other projects. We're opening projects right now, and we're going to have some major successes and some failures. And our goal in doing this and other kinds of feedback like this is to help others, whoever's doing the next project. What are the things that they can learn about things that we've done or didn't do that'll help the next project gets better? But that's the willingness to share, I think, is a really important factor in our field.
Nice. Now, Marcus, you specifically mentioned in the article putting the ego to the side and picking up the phone. When y'all spoke to your different colleagues, was it something that was mentioned that just made you excited that you spoke to them first? Was there something that happened with them in the past that you didn't have to deal with because you just put that ego to the side and you picked up the phone and you got some information and got some great conversations with your colleagues?
Certainly. I think, in a lot of what we do, and because our athletic teams will sometimes go at each other on the fields, and there's certainly a bit of healthy competition. Everybody wants to be the best. But I think, talking to colleagues who have the same sentiment that we want to be the best for our students, right? But and with that, there's enough room to care for, other institutions and their students. And so I think those kind of ongoing conversations at both the NIRSA level, where you have different size institutions as well, and you can talk to the smaller ones who are sometimes closer to their students to get ideas from them in terms of helping you with, when you want to create a sense of belonging, to the larger size institutions to talk about how they navigate things like 40,000 plus students or whatnot in a facility, and different kind of conversations to that nature. So I think those are the kind of things that help a history, and just having those relationships built over time.
All right. So now let's talk budget. Okay. Let's talk about every time you have a new project. And look, listen, I'm a big idea type person. Like I'm like, let's shoot to the moon for everything. Okay. But every time you have a project, you really have this dream list, and then you have like a reality list. So how did y'all separate the needs and the want to haves, or the things that you need to have, or the things that would be nice if we had those? Because I'm pretty sure at the beginning it's like, hey, let's just list everything that we want, and then let's kind of build back to what we can actually do and what we have to hold off on.
Yeah, I think when we looked at it, we have three comprehensive recreation centers on our campus, and we looked at it of like, what do each one need to have in terms of core spaces that every single one of the three need to have, and then what are those other things that are destination spaces that maybe not all three facilities have, but maybe one of the three or even two of the three might have, and try to understand how does our new project complement the other facilities that are on our campus. And so that was one of the ways we started off to understand what do we need and what do we want. But regardless of whatever project budget you have, you're exactly right that the list that you want is so much longer than what you can afford. And so you start to look at, okay, what are the things that are really critical to the student experience? What are the things we don't have right now? And start to understand and kind of weigh those against each other. And then that's also why you have students on your project team, is students can then say, yes, we need more strength space, but we don't have this other space. And we'd like to actually give up a little strength space and get something else. And so that having those students there to really answer those questions, to define the student experience is a way that we navigated that.
Mm-hmm. And I think in addition to that, we're talking about students, so that also includes our student staff. So thinking operationally, what it takes to oversee these spaces and administering them in a safe fashion, as well as a way that will still allow students to meet their personal health and wellness goals. So consulting with them, having them be a part of the process. As Mike mentioned, continue to have students on the team, but a lot of the feedback from the focus groups is where these things start. And you have a great architecture team that builds, or looks at some different things of what your facility could look like. That's where price points and things of that nature come into play. And then, you'll certainly consult with your university leadership and your student body. In our case, what I'm excited about is our student body leadership approved the actual fee that helps support the operations and construction of this building. And so it's really about continuing to engage those groups in ways that are meaningful, and to help them, help you really drive the project and what you need.
You also mentioned that how'd you put it? Culture and priorities of the organization is seen and felt through the new building. So do you have some specific ways that operational philosophy actually showed up in the final design, maybe murals on the wall or something like that?
Absolutely. So, and I'll go first. We certainly have murals, different representations of the state or region that we're in. We have a hammock grove, which is an area where there are synthetic trees that are the same type of tree that are in East Lansing, that are in our building, where students can hang hammocks up and kind of enjoy the space there. There's also different inspirations throughout the building in our graphics that show that.
And I think one of the things that another similarity between our two institutions is we have a lot of campus pride, And so when you think about how do the Spartan logos and the Block M logos show up inside of our facility, and I think that really drives the passion from our students because they want to represent our school colors in the same way that varsity athletes represent those. And so I think how you utilize those color palettes, natural light is also another factor that really drives participation, and I think that's something that really helps in determining, like, hey, I'm part of Michigan, I'm a Wolverine, and same thing for the Spartans at Michigan State, and I think those are important components.
Now the article that was written gave two practical takeaways. Like one was storage, and the other one was building spaces that can be flexible and that can change over time. Why are these two things so easily underestimated, especially when it comes to the time to build a new building? I think all of us have been in a place where we're like, man, if we had a little bit more room, if we did an outside field this time, we would be good to go with our programming, but we don't have that room. So why are these two things was super important to y'all going into the planning stages and making sure that those were two things that you got out of the new building?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the storage component, and I think that's the stages of, like, we can't afford everything. So instead of cutting a group fitness room, let's cut a storage room. And while at the surface that makes sense, I get, because you want to build spaces for student activity, but you have to think about the operational components of the building as well. And so the experience that you're creating for your full-time staff and your student staff, some of that relies around how much storage do you have in the building. And so those are some things that you have to really think about in terms of weighing one space versus another. Do we need a fifth group exercise room, or do we need some additional storage? And those are factors, and that's why you also, in addition, have students on your team for design. You also want to have some of your staff members, and then you want to go back to your staff and keep asking questions of, here's what we're thinking, and test those thinkings around, like, hey, what if we didn't build this storage room? What does that mean operationally? And what if we did build it? And so some of those factors weigh in terms of your process.
Mm-hmm. And I think, similar, when you're first starting out on these projects, all of our goal is to create as much programmable space as possible, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're, having sort of those internal considerations, it's easy to, say, hey, let's get one more court in there at, like Mike said, the expense of possibly some storage, and that square footage and the cost, really starts to add up. And so, it's really a scale that you've got to, kind of weigh out the benefits. And again, borrowing from what Mike said, that's where staff can help in terms of, what does it take to operationalize a lot of those things.
Now, both a couple of more questions, and we're going to get up out of here. Let's talk about sustainability and well-being. Both of the facilities speak to the modern student well-being, and that definition has changed over the really like the last 5 to 10 years. So how has the definition of a recreation facility changed simply from being a place that we work at or a place that people come to work out at to a place that supports overall well-being?
I think one of the biggest things is thinking about how does a recreation space contribute to sense of belonging and sense of connection. And oftentimes when, we thought about them, I'd say in the past, a lot of that focused around, competitive types of sports or activities, and not as much the socializing space. And so thinking sometimes about non-traditional features in your buildings that bring people into the door, whether or not they're experienced at physical exercise or not, but allows them to come in and feel prideful. Again, Mike mentioned this earlier of having, something for the U of M or the MSU students to be proud of when they come into the facility. They might want to come in and just relax or meet with friends or, have a meal or a snack. Take a break between classes. And that's a transition, I think, from, again, having all these spaces that have to have constant activity in them to actually thinking about non-activity as a recreational program as well.
And I think about when you start doing these projects and planning them, you think a lot about the space and the equipment. And okay, we're going to have these fantastic gymnasiums, these aquatic centers, these strength spaces and fitness spaces, and lots of cardio machines and just all this stuff. But it's really about what that allows us to do. It's what are the things that are happening inside our building that are pretty powerful. And we have a unique connection to do that for our students in ways that we can develop community like no one else. We can create well-being like no one else. And to Marcus's point, you've got to build spaces that people want to be in, that they can belong and find themselves there. And to do that, it's not just about putting as many strength racks as you can in your facility, because that for some that's very intimidating. And some may look at those and say, I can't squat 500 pounds, so I'm not going to come in. Or I can't run a marathon or a mile. Or you've got to think about how are you laying out your equipment? What do your spaces look like? How are they one big open space, or are there smaller neighborhoods of spaces that allow a little bit more privacy that someone who maybe is just starting their fitness journey could feel very comfortable in, and don't feel like they have to be on display, and don't feel they have to put 45 plates on each side of the bar, that they can maybe just do the bar, and that's okay. We all start our fitness journeys at different points, and we want to create a space that supports all of those starting points, so that way we can grow and generate well-being and belonging and community in these spaces.
All right, here we go. Last one, and we up out of here. Okay. For those who are listening, for the viewers, if they can take one lesson from your facility journey and apply it on their own campus tomorrow, not down. If they can take one lesson from your journey and apply it on their campus tomorrow, what would it be?
One lesson, I would say, engage early and often. It's important to have these conversations. Again, whether or not you have a new project coming along, we ought to be getting together with our staff, with our university colleagues and partners, and discussing what are the needs and how can we serve them in the best way possible.
And I would say always be thinking about what's next. What do you need, and what changes might be in the future, whether or not you have a project or not. But be ready, because you never know when administration comes calling and say, okay, we have an opportunity here. What do we want to go after? And so always be thinking, 5-10 years down the road of like, where can we make some impact on our campus, and what allows us to do that? What's the next project? What's the next renovation? What's the next expansion? What's the next equipment purchase? Those kind of things. Thinking about what's next, I think, is really critical. So then when the opportunity presents itself, you've already done some of that initial thinking and you're ready to capitalize.
Yeah, you never know when your leadership is going to say, hey, the school downstate is making all kinds of renovations and stuff. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, nice. And that was the case at UAB. They was like, hey, Alabama and Auburn football naturally are kicking our butts with getting people into into their school. So we need to do some things to kind of revamp what we're doing around the building. And that was money that we didn't know we had 24 hours before that conversation. So it was just amazing. And you're right. So got to be thinking about those things, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come. M&M, thank y'all so much for sitting down and talking with us, with the NIRSA Network, about your experiences. And I'm pretty sure y'all will make yourself available if any other conversations, any other questions come about. So if you want to, you can go ahead and shoot some contact information to the people who may be looking right now, or let them know to put your information in Connect, put your questions and connect. We'll make sure we get them to the right people. But if y'all have any social media that y'all want to go ahead and let them know to follow y'all on social media, or if you want to give out your email address and have some people reach out to you, feel free to do that now.
My email is jack1970@msu.edu.
And my email is mwiden@umich.edu. And happy to answer any questions, because I know we've both benefited from colleagues in the past giving us information, and we're happy to pay that forward for future projects and colleagues.
And, you know, my relatives all live in California. Sometimes they get the two universities mixed up. I've also worked for both. So if you send me Mike's questions or my questions to Mike, we're good friends. So, you know, we can make sure they get sent to the right place.
Absolutely amazing. Look, and if this conversation has sparked any questions about your own facility, your next renovations, or how you can better operate your space, you already have the Nursing Facilities Institute presented by Mondo and in partnership with AB is built exactly for those types of conversations. So make sure y'all check that out. And if you're interested, go ahead and get in. Registration is going on right now. Mike, Marcus, thank y'all so much for joining us. Y'all get back to having a great conference.
Thank you, Lamont.
Thanks for having us, Lamont.